Okay, we are live. Okay, welcome back to Let's Get Freaky, guys. Very excited to welcome our guest tonight. We are joined by Rusty Jones. How are you, brother? Welcome to Let's
Hi.
Get Freaky, man.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
And we are in Michigan tonight.
Yeah, we're in Michigan. It's getting cooler out. It's yesterday was last day of summer for us, so it's now getting into
We're
spooky season.
we're in spooky season. Yeah, man. I love it. The best time of year.
Oh
I
yeah,
love it, man. So you
definitely.
you are founder of Central Michigan Paranormal Investigations.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. I'm glad I got that right.
Oh yeah. It's a mouthful, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We just
So
call it CMPI for short. It's easier.
yeah. That's awesome. And I was seeing when this was founded, was it 1988? Was this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. I was a
Man.
junior in high school when I started.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're one of the OGs, man. I mean, that's got to be the oldest team I've talked to for sure.
Um, from what I've read so far, I think we are the oldest team, at least in the state of Michigan.
Wow, man. So was you, as far as you're aware, one of the first to start doing it, or what gave you the
Yeah,
idea?
I actually a book. Um, when I was in high school, actually when I was in school, I loved reading books, and I still do. Uh, but my thing was cryptids. Back then it was I knew everything about every cryptid that they could write about. Uh, read through all the books in the library, so I asked the librarian like, "Hey, we're done with these. What do you got?" And she's like, "Well, what about ghosts?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, ghosts. No, they don't exist. Yep, cryptids do. Okay." And she's like, "Well, here, just read this one book and you tell me what you think. And if you like it, I'll get you more." Cool. So I started reading them and I'm realizing that some of the cases in the book were right here in this local area where I could actually go to. So that's what got me hooked is like, okay, well, if they're writing about it, I might go experience it to see how real it really is. My first investigation was in an old cemetery just right down the road from our school. And went there, nothing happened, but I was hooked from that moment on because it was just that excitement that what could happen, you
Yeah,
know. So
it's awesome, man. So
yeah.
is the team now the same team that it was back then, or is
Oh
it
no, no, we've
changed?
had several iterations. The current team I have now, my longest reigning member is about 10 years. She's
Okay.
been with me about 10 years. I had a couple other ladies that was with me for a little bit longer, but they moved down to Florida. So technically I got a Florida chapter too. But
Yeah.
uh, and everybody's kind of, came along some 5 years, a couple of years, got a couple of newbies. So it's a little mix of everything, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you've literally been doing so I was born in 87. So you started
Oh,
this when I was born, man, basically. That's
yeah.
wild. So you must have experienced quite a lot of things and seen a lot
Yeah,
of things.
I have. But the funny thing is in the whole time I've been doing this, I've only seen two full-bodied apparitions.
Okay.
You know, I'm not psychic or sensitive or anything like that. So for me to see apparitions, that's something, you
Yeah,
know.
man.
And these
Wow.
weren't just shadow figures; these were actual apparitions, So I was like, at the time I seen them, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome," And then, of course, I don't know if you've fallen into this, but I'm pretty sure the time or two you have, you see something really cool or catch something really cool, and then you realize you have nothing to document it with except for your own self.
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah.
that's how it happened.
Wow. Because you see something wild and you say to yourself, there's no way I'm going to forget the date, the time, everything. And you do. You forget the
Yeah,
time, you forget the dates. Obviously the memory's there. But wow, man.
yeah,
Can you explain the two? Give
yeah. The
us
first
the
the first
detail.
one happened up in near Escanaba, Michigan. That's in the UP of Michigan. Um, and we were doing a lighthouse. There was me and three other investigators, and at the time, the Coast Guards ran the lighthouses. So we had a special envoy from the Coast Guard. He was with us. He was going to be with us all night long. That way, if the police showed up asking us what we were doing there, he was there to say they're allowed to be here. All that legal good stuff. Well, we're sitting there talking to envoy, and a couple of the guys that are like, hey, we're just going back in town, grab extra batteries if we need them, some food, for later tonight. Cool. So I left one investigator, the envoy, and myself. We're just sitting there talking. Now, this particular lighthouse at the time still had the little cabin and the lighthouse right next to each other. We're sitting on the hood of the car just talking. All of a sudden, this lady walks out the door, picks up a pail, and starts walking toward the lighthouse. I noticed she's in like 1920s, maybe earlier dress. And I looked at the envoy. I was like, you didn't need someone to reenact what they did here. We kind of have a gist of what happens here, right? And he's like, we're the only ones that's supposed to be here. So we watched her go into the lighthouse. Now, mind you, she didn't walk through the doors. She actually opened the door and walked in like a normal person. So wait a minute here. If she's not supposed to be here, we better find out what's going on. So we run into the lighthouse and we're watching her go up the stairs. And you can hear the pail, shaking and back and forth as she's taking steps. But we noticed that the higher she gets, the more we're starting to see right through her. And by the time she gets to the top, all we can hear is that pail swinging back and forth. The next thing I know, I hear the door slam behind us. Okay, I'm not worried about that. I'm still wanting to concentrate on her. Well, everything slowed down. There was no noise, no nothing. And my investigator smacked me in the arm and he looks at me. He's like, you did the same thing I just did. And I'm like, what? He's like, we left the camera on the hood. It's like, oh, great. But the funny thing of it is we went back out to the car, and there's the envoy in his car waiting for us to get there. And he's like, I'm going to send someone else back. I'm leaving. And so he left. He was scared, because he saw what happened too. So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Wow, man. So when you
Yeah.
first saw the lady, she was full bodied, like
Oh
it
yeah.
was just like a person was there.
Yeah, as solid as get out. I mean, she didn't walk through the door. She opened the door like any normal person, grabbed the pail. And the funny thing is looking back on it, we never noticed the pail there. Like it was never there until she grabbed it. So it was like,
Wow.
where did the pail come from? Because none of us noticed the pail there.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, man. And you saw her gradually disappearing as well.
oh yeah, as she kept on going up the stairs, you could start seeing the brick wall behind her, and it was just amazing.
Wow.
Just
Did you go up
watch.
there?
Yeah. We walked that same path several times that night.
Yeah.
It was
Man.
in a way it was actually cool, but it also was eerie because like, okay, what if it's like then you get all these crazy ideas like what if that's a vortex or a portal that you're walking through now? Are you
Hmm.
gonna start disappearing too?
Yeah.
So yeah, you get those little ideas in your head and a little scary, like, okay, this is exciting.
Yeah, man. How long ago was that? Sorry, did you say how long ago that
That
was?
was in 91, 92.
Okay. And would you say that was the first moment for you that it was like, this is real?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you don't expect to see something like that. You hear all the stories about people here seeing, apparitions and they're see-through from the get-go,
Hmm.
but you actually see like a real body attached to this, and then all of a sudden it starts disappearing. Your mind is just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So
Yeah.
you your mind's not able to comprehend it until you slow down for a second and just like, that's not possible. You
And
know.
you wasn't the only person to see it either.
No, it was the envoy plus one of my investigators at the time.
See, that's cool, man. That's cool. It's cool to see something like that. But then for your friends to see it as well,
Oh yeah,
that's special, man.
definitely. That's something that I still talk to the gentleman that was investigating with this from time to time, and he brings it up every now and then. And he's like, "Yeah, you remember?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, "Yeah, I've never thought about that. And never forget it."
Mhm.
And he tells that story too. He tells the same thing about smacking me in the arm and kind of yelling at me like, "Where's the camera at? It's on the hood." So yeah.
Did you look into the history and find out if there was possibly a lady that was, passed there or had any
Uh,
connection to the place?
everything we found was there was no ladies there. Um, they did have one lightkeeper that was married, so we think it was her. And of course, at the time, she probably would help out every now and then. Like a good wife or good person would do. Just like, yeah, I'll take it up, no problem, real quick this time. That's what we kind of assumed, and that's what we're going
Yeah.
with,
That's a cool experience, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a fun experience too, because that whole night we're just like, hey, can you come back out? Can you show us yourself again? At least we had something solid to go on, you
Mhm.
know, that we
Yeah.
we knew something was there.
Did
So
anything else happen that night or
we had a lot of voices. And the great thing about that location is there's nothing around there. It's very isolated, and um, at the time it was even linked off. It was like a fenced off area, so you would actually have to either crawl across the fence or break through the gate. You know, so we were the only ones within, I'd say, a good mile, mile and a half, if not further. So, those voices we heard were right there in the house.
wow? And were they like, was it like a female voice as well?
No, it was mostly males.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff that we got was related to job duties. I need extra coal, I need extra oil, stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yep. Because the coal was for the house itself for heat, and the oil was actually for the lighthouse lamp.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So at this time, obviously when we watch paranormal teams now, and I'm sure you do this now, when you've got the voice box recorders and that sort of equipment, did you have that stuff then? I know it's not that long ago, but I mean, did you
Uh,
have recording
no,
equipment?
we did. We did. We actually had cassette recorders. We had
Okay.
little itty bitty. Now they were probably about that big. Like classroom size cassette recorders. So I had one of those and a Polaroid camera. You know, and that was really all we had.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
we didn't have no K2 meters. We didn't have REM pods. We didn't have half the stuff we have now.
Yeah,
It was just basically yourself, a camera, and a voice recorder, and a
yeah,
flashlight.
yeah. Well, that's all you really need, for the. I know
Yeah,
obviously you want to catch the evidence as well,
yeah.
but that's cool, man. That's
Oh,
cool. Is it wild for you now to see how, we've got a lot of paranormal teams now. There's a lot
mhm.
of different channels, podcasts, and is it mad for you to see how much it's grown, the paranormal in general?
Yeah, I like it though. I love the podcast better because now you're dealing with actual real investigators. You're dealing with someone that's in the field. The TV shows I can't really trust because they're for TV.
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
more they find, the better the ratings, the more they stay on.
yeah, yeah. They
So,
they they have to get something,
right,
and
or they
well,
fabricate it.
yeah. So whether that is, if it's, I'm not saying everything's fake on TV. I don't know,
Right.
but they've got to get a result for the show because
Yeah, exactly.
people don't want to. Well, people do. People do just want to watch people because you see it on YouTube and TikTok and things like
Oh
that where
yeah.
people are watching, just you guys there. And if you
Mhm.
don't experience anything, you don't expect people still enjoy that they're kind of doing it with you, I guess, and that's what's
Right,
cool.
exactly. Yeah, that's why I love like doing live feeds like on Facebook or TikTok or YouTube because then we draw our fans in with us. Granted they don't get the added excitement of actually being on the spot, but they're there with us.
Mhm.
And I try to when I'm doing it, try to take my phone, and if I move my head, I move the phone with my head, not my body. That way, if
So
I see it, they're going to try to see it too.
they're seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah, so we're starting to invest in like GoPros, so now we can just attach them to like our forehead, and you know, it's automatic at that point rather than just like, oh, I gotta think about this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the TV shows, like I said, I'm not too thrilled about, because I'm not mentioning names or shows, but they've been proven to fabricate 90% of their evidence.
Hmm.
Yes, it's for ratings and it's for TV. I get that, but when you're trying to um, bring our field into everybody's normal life, um, including scientists and stuff like this, because that's our ultimate goal. Is we wanted to be taken serious as a science. These shows don't do us any justice
Hmm.
because now they're thinking everybody fabricates their evidence, for likes and fans and stuff like this. And it's like, not all of us do.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think in a way, like obviously you got shows in the UK like Most Haunted,
Mhm.
Ghost Adventures, massive shows. Do you think in a way they sort of helped grow the paranormal to the
Oh yeah,
mainstream? And now,
definitely.
so in a way it's good, but I get what you're saying that in,
Yeah,
you can't
there's
always trust what you're seeing there.
exactly. And there's a lot of teams that say, "Hey, I started this because I watched Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters or something like that," and that's fine. That's great. And if you're coming into the field to learn and to expand the field, perfect. If you're here to try to get on TV, not the field for you.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but if you started it because of watching those shows, great, grand. I'm glad to have you. But my best advice to those people, go out with a regular team, a normal team that isn't on TV. See how it's done from their aspect. Yes, I've been in this field for a long time, but I still learn from other teams, because they may have a different technique of talking during an EVP session and be like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Let me try that, And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I'm learning something new.
Hmm.
And that's what you got to do in this field. You just can't, I'm sticking to my roots and this is all I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it. No, you guys would, you know, acclimate other things into your investigations.
Yeah. It's like we said before, you must have seen a huge change between when you started this to
Oh,
now.
yeah, definitely. Not only just in equipment alone, but in the way people investigate.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, some of it's pretty cool. They've taken it and just ran with it, which is great to see. And now, mind you, I don't like seeing people provoke. I have a big concern with that, and especially when you're doing residential housing. You can go in, you can provoke, but you get to leave. That family gets to stay there and has to deal with what you provoke. So that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons I don't like people to provoke. But back to the main question is, yeah, it's great. The advancements we've seen in this field from individuals too. I mean, individuals, you watch certain people and or certain teams, and like I said, you pick up different things, and then hopefully, if they're doing something wrong, and you can say, "Hey, I would have tried it this way." Hopefully, they're responsive enough to say, "Oh, I see how you. Okay, cool." And you kind of go off each other that way, and you work together.
Mhm.
That's what it's all about: is working together.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What was your second
My
ghostly
second one
encounter?
was at I can't remember the exact city, but it was here in Michigan, and it was at an old school. I was with two other investigators. We were doing our initial walkthrough, trying to find. We didn't have cameras in it. We had K2 meters. We are trying to find like where the hot spots were, so that way, if we're in there later in the night, we get a big hit. We're like, oh yeah, we're over a junction box or something, you know. And we're walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden, I stopped because I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I backed up a step, turned and looked, and there's this lady standing there, solid as could be, just turns and looks at me, and she looks like she's writing on a chalkboard. I'm like, okay. The other two stopped and they backed up and they looked, and there's like, we're seeing. I'm like, yeah, we're seeing, and they're like, wow. And she stood there for a good minute and a half before she disappeared. But she just looked at us like, nothing, still started writing on the chalkboard. And I'm like, yep, you were a teacher at one point. Only a teacher can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was pretty cool too.
Wow, man. And was she, you say solid form as
Solid.
well? Yeah.
Yeah. The only way I knew she wasn't supposed to be there is okay, the time we were doing it was about 6:30 at night. It was starting to get dark out. Nobody's going to be standing in an empty classroom writing on a chalkboard.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, I know what I'm seeing. It's not going to get me this time. It's going to be, I'm dead-eyed on it, and yeah, after like a minute and a half, she disappeared completely, and it's just like,
Wow.
that's amazing. you know
Wow, man. And you saw her just disappear as well.
yeah, she was not more than maybe 6 feet from me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it
And
was.
and and other people saw that as well.
Yeah, two other people saw her and just watched her disappear with me, and it's just like we just turned around and looked at each other like that was cool.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so that was their first time ever seeing a full body apparition just disappear.
Mhm.
So Yep.
Man. And sorry, did you say when that happened?
That
How
was
long
around
ago that was?
93, 94.
Okay, so not far after the
The first
first
time.
one you saw.
Yeah.
Man. Wow. And you've not seen anything else like that since in that
No,
time.
I mean, I've seen the shadow figures and things out of the corner of my eye, but nothing that solid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing.
So I mean, 'cause I would say shadow figures are in the paranormal world quite common. Like most people have seen shadow figures. Not many people see full-bodied, solid apparitions. I've
Yeah.
spoken to a few people that I've seen it myself when I was a kid. So I woke up during the night and there was a man sitting
Mm,
at our desk in my bedroom,
right.
and that stayed with me all my life. And I know that that was, that was a ghost. At the
Right.
time, I was like, "There's a man in my room." It was just a solid man that was dressed in. He looked like William Shakespeare. I've talked about it many times on the show before.
Right.
And that was a full-bodied man. If you was in the street and you saw him, you're not going to think it's a ghost. You're just going to think there's a guy dressed up like William Shakespeare. What's he doing?
Right. Oh
but,
yeah.
but yeah, man.
Well, as kids though, and this is just my theory, and that's all it is. It's just a theory. Um, I think the reason kids and animals see entities more than we do as adults is, as adults, we know Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and all them are fake. As kids, no, they're not. They're real. To us, they're real. So we haven't been able to suspend that disbelief yet,
Mhm.
and it opens your mind up a little bit more to the paranormal. And as adults, we've closed that off. Um, Most of us in the field are trying to rekindle that, that childhood memory again,
Yeah.
basically. You know.
But I think that's why there's a question I ask a lot is what you experienced as a kid, because most of the time as you're saying, you see something as a kid, and then you know that there's more, and then you're open to it, and then chances are you're going to see more stuff as you get older, which is what I've certainly experienced.
Right. Oh yeah. As an adult, I still think we kind of, you know, we want to believe it, but we hit that wall. Is like, okay, we know Santa Claus is fake. We
Mhm.
know Easter Bunny's fake. So we still hit that wall. So as adults, yeah, we got to rekindle that somehow. And it's hard to get back to that spot.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have any experiences when you was a kid? Anything that stands out?
Yeah, it's been a long, one of those memories that you just, did it really happen or didn't it? Um,
Hmm.
uh, I was living just north of where I live now in a city called Owasso, and um, I remember, I know where the house is. I know how, even to this day, I can remember where each room was and everything like that. And I remember it was Christmas time. Okay, and this is how I kind of relate back to the childhood adult thing going. Is I remember sitting on mom's vacuum, and this is 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I know, I was like, I'm going to catch Santa Claus. I know it, you know. And the funny thing of it is now, mind you, this is a memory, so I can't confirm, yes, this is what really happened, or no, this isn't what really happened. Because I was like 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old at the time. But I did catch Santa Claus, and he did put me in bed. He's like, it's time to go to sleep. And I remember him tucking me in.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
I might have
So
to save this episode for Christmas.
exactly, yeah. But
Wow.
that's my first recollection of, you know, the paranormal, really.
So what was that you saw Father Christmas entity?
Yeah.
That's wild, man. And
Yeah.
I've heard that before as well, where
And the
people have
funny,
seen that.
yeah. And the funny thing is I remember vividly of him, hey, it's time to go to sleep, carrying me into my bedroom, tucking me in, and him just disappearing.
Wow. How old was you then?
Like I said, about 5 or 6 years old.
Man.
So yeah.
That's cool. Can you explain what did it just look like a typical Santa?
Oh yeah, definitely. He was um well, when you're 5 or 6 years old, everybody's like really, really tall.
Yeah.
But I would say he was a good like 6'1", 6'2", had to be at least 400 pounds. That's how big he looked, you know. Had the big long white beard, you know, and he actually smelled of like coal. You know, I remember that smell. And, you know, he had the, you know, belly laugh and everything like that. But then, you know, as the years gone by, I've kind of let that pass. But I remember it's like, you know, laying there going, wait a minute, if that's Santa Claus, when he left, why didn't mom and dad wake up? Or my sister, you know? So it kind of, you know, one of those things like, wait a minute here. Yes, it adds up, but it doesn't add up. Why, you know? So, but I think even looking back on, it's like, yeah, it had to be real, you know,
Yeah, man.
because my dad didn't stand that tall. He was
Mhm.
about 6 foot, so there's another 2 inches. And my dad is a skinny guy, you know, unless he put on a lot of padding and a lot of pillows.
Yeah.
I don't think he would do that just to put Christmas presents underneath the tree.
How did he can you I know you was young, but how can you remember him entering the room? Or do you remember
No,
how
I don't remember him entering. I remember hearing something because I was sitting on the vacuum sweeper. Now these are the old vacuum sweepers that had, you know, the huge bag and kind of like a Kirby. I don't know if you know what a Kirby vacuum is. Kind of like one of those. And I remember hearing something about the living room. Now I was only like maybe 5 feet from the living room, 4 or 5 feet, and I remember getting up and I see him. His back is to me, right? And I'm like, okay, that's a big person, you know. And he just kind of like turns around. He didn't stand up. He just kind of like turned around at the waist and looked at me. He's like, "Oh, you're awake." And I'm like, "Yeah." And that's when he's like, "Okay, come with me. It's time to go back to bed." And then, yeah,
wow, so you heard him talk as well.
oh yeah, and he had like a deep baritone voice. It wasn't scary. It wasn't, you know, menacing. It just reminded me of, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
yeah,
man. And did he literally pick you up?
yep. You know, like you would, you like had his hands under my shoulder and under my legs, and just put me back in bed and covered me up and laughed a
Wow.
little bit. You know, I was like, okay, cool.
Wow, man. So that was obviously Christmas Eve.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next morning, waking up, going, okay, yeah, Santa was here. Definitely he was here because now there's a ton of presents underneath the tree.
Yeah. Can you remember telling your mum and dad and
I did, and they're like, oh, okay. You know how parents are. It's like, oh, yep, that's us. You know,
yeah.
that kind of smile, but they're like, yeah, Santa's real. You know, and I'm like, but he was. I saw him. He, you know, we talked. You know,
Yeah. That's wild. That's like every kid's dream, man.
it
To
is.
see.
Yes,
Wow.
but you know, there again, though, is as I grew up, you know, and everything, that memory started fading until I actually got into the paranormal field, and then you start thinking back, it's like, oh my god, that was my first run-in with the paranormal.
Mhm.
Really,
So what do you think that was?
I want to think it's real,
Mhm.
honestly.
So do
Um,
you think that was literally a Father Christmas type entity?
yeah, I do, because there was no menace. I mean, okay, as a 5 year old or 6 year old, you see someone in your house that is not supposed to be there. Your first thought is, I better run and get dad or mom or some adult, right? There was no fear. There was no, I should go tell an adult. It was just like, oh, cool, you do exist, you know? And that's how it felt. There was nothing there that would send red flags up,
Mhm.
you know? So
Wow,
yeah,
man. That's possibly the coolest experience I've heard out
yeah,
of the whole time of doing this show so far. Wow. Did
yeah.
you have any other experiences like that as a kid that stand out?
No, that was that was the only time I've ever felt anything off kilter paranormal wise. And I've lived in some, you know, houses that they claimed was haunted, but never felt anything, seen anything, or heard anything, and even to this day, I've been in certain houses, and sometimes you can feel it, sometimes you can't.
Hmm.
I'm sure you know that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. When you go into in a haunted house, or you go into some places and you just get that vibe, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You just sort of know. But man, that's wild. Cool experience though, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I love telling that story because people are like, oh, it was your dad. It's like, no, no, there's a difference between height and weight and everything. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
and even at 5 or 6, you know who your parents' friends are.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, they got a friend to come in and play Santa Claus in case you woke up, you know. So
So
yeah.
I know you was young, but can you remember like what time that was? Was it like during the
Oh,
night or
oh yeah, it had to be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you know.
so
Uh,
everyone's asleep?
yeah, everybody's dead asleep, and because I knew mom and dad used to go to bed about 11, 12 o'clock. You know, every now and then you could hear them, talking before they go to bed. Not a big deal. That was normal, and yeah, everything was quiet. Um, the funny thing of it is I do remember that he had like an aura around him too, and it kind of lit a small area around him. Like he didn't need a flashlight or anything like that. That way he could see, and it was like, okay, cool. Because I can remember seeing our shadows walking down the hallway because
Wow.
of it.
Man, so you said it was like a ghostly kind of thing, or just like a light coming off him?
It's like a light coming off him. It was a golden light. You know, the best way I can describe it is like a halo around him.
Mhm.
A gold halo. But yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, it was just bright enough to where he could walk down like a hallway without tripping over a vacuum sweeper
Hmm.
and know where everything is.
Yeah, that's cool. What did he give you that year? Can you remember what you got?
No, I can't. That's the sad thing is, but I remember that though.
Yeah. So you don't think this was like an entity making out to be Santa? Like you think this was Father Christmas? This was Santa?
I, thinking back on it, yeah, I think it was Father Christmas.
Wow.
I mean, because doing this for so long, entities come in like three packages. Either they're going to, like a poltergeist thing, start throwing things around or something like that, or they're going to be a jokester. They're going to start joking around, hiding things and stuff like that. And then you're just going to get those ones that just stand around going, "I'm here. What are you going to do?" You know,
Mhm.
and that experience never landed in any one of those criterias.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
What a cool experience. Definitely one of my favorites I've heard.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Man, what else has happened, brother? I don't know if we can top that, but
um, I've actually been about 20 years ago, about 2000. I was actually invited out to Utah. I was one of three investigators being invited out there to an old 1800s jail cell and do an invest. We spent like 6 days out there. We actually did not leave that building. They set up a little room where food was brought into us. We had all the equipment we needed. We actually got to investigate for 6 full days out there. And you want to talk about a really cool experience. That was one of them
what sort
because
of things were happening, man?
like one day, and I tell the story a lot. So we were all sitting there. It was about lunchtime, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're just sitting there eating. And now this jail had 3 floors to it. All 3 floors were nothing but cells. Where we were was like in the front part where you had the offices, where they would sit and do the paperwork, whatever. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden we heard just like this loudest door slam from a jail cell that you could ever imagine. All three of us just jump up like, okay, what floor did that come from? We each took a floor. We couldn't figure out exactly where it came from because, like the floor I had, all the cell doors were shut. Now, mind you, this at the time weren't like there nowadays where they slide shut. These were actually like doors, and all the ones on my floor was all shut. And the other two guys, they basically the same thing. All doors were shut, nothing, you know. So we ran down, got a thermal camera, thinking, okay, there's got to be some type of heat on one of these doors for it to be shut that hard. And we couldn't find anything. There was no heat signature, no nothing. Yeah.
What do you think that was that was
I
causing that?
I got a feeling there was a story that the owner of that place told us about that back in the late 1800s during its height of popularity. They had a jailer that would love to slam things just to make you feel small as a prisoner, you know.
Mhm.
And we think that was him, slamming the door just to make whoever was in that cell at that time feel smaller, But there again, we couldn't get any evidence to back up what we heard,
Yeah.
fortunately.
Wow. Cool experience, though, man. Another
Yeah,
cool
it
experience.
seems like, and I don't know about you, but it seems like all the cool experiences that would solidify a lot of things, you never have anything to record it with.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. Well, I saw me and my mother-in-law both saw three objects very close up. It came out basically where I was living at the time. There was like we was in like a block of flats. We was on the full floor, and
Okay.
three objects came out from the forested area opposite us. And I put this in the UFO category, but I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure what it was. But they were like three silvery objects, and they were like constantly changing shape.
Oh, wow.
And me and my mother-in-law were looking at this like for 5 minutes, whatever it was. Like, what is that? Trying to work out what it was. And it was they were sort of connected but not touching, and they were like going up and up and up to the sky. And we're like, are they balloons? Like, what are they? We couldn't work out.
Right.
They were constantly changing shape.
Oh, wow.
And, and we're watching them. They get so high, and then they go flash, 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 and it was the way they shot off was wild.
Yeah.
And me and my mother-in-law looked at each other and was like, "No one's going to believe we saw that. That was amazing." And I had my iPhone at the time in
Oh,
my
no.
pocket. Didn't even think about getting it out and recording,
You know,
which is, but you just don't, man. When you're seeing something amazing like that, it's just like you don't even think about like
no,
trying
because
to prove it, or you just you're in the moment.
yeah, you're just in awe of
So I
that.
get it.
Yeah. Yep.
With like the Bigfoot pictures and stuff, and everyone's like, "Why are they shaking? Why is it blurry?" Like, I can imagine if you're seeing something that incredible, like it's
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be hard to keep your cool, man. Patterson Gimlin style.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. The funny thing about the Bigfoot videos, right? Especially, I don't know if you watch some of these shows, especially like Expedition Bigfoot
Mhm.
and stuff
Yeah,
like
for
that.
sure.
My thing is okay, yeah, I want to know if Bigfoot's real. I do. But what happens if you run across one? What are you going to do? You know? Okay, like on Expedition Bigfoot, they do split up. Sometimes it's only one person, sometimes it's two. Okay, yeah, you got a whole camera crew behind you, but if one is angry,
Yeah, game over.
exactly, we're going to be finding the footage 5 years later and go, oh, that's what happened to that show, But that's always my question about these shows is, okay, yeah, great, you're going out and looking for them. Yes, you're doing it a scientific way. I get it, but what happens if you do run into one? You know,
Yeah, 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 for
so
sure.
just like was it BFO or BFRO,
Hmm.
that moneymaker and all them when they had
Yes.
the
What was
show
that?
on?
Finding Bigfoot? Is that the one?
Yeah, Finding Bigfoot. That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
I always wanted to know is like, okay, you're making the knocks like they are. Try to bring them in closer. What happens if you do?
Yeah.
What's your game plan at that point? Because they never tell you what the game plan is if they do catch one.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Especially as you say, especially if it's angry.
Oh yeah,
I often joke that I really want to see one. I'd love to see one. That's like a dream. But I can imagine it is scary as well at the same time.
oh yeah. Well, you figure, okay, I don't know how tall you are, but I'm like 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
a yeah 5'8". I am.
okay,
I think I'm 5'8".
okay.
So I'm not much bigger.
But you think about it, say we're out in the woods, and all of a sudden you get this 7, 8 foot, ape-like creature, yeah, no matter how fast we run, it's still going to be like, oh, I'll just walk really fast and keep up with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's that's why I wish these shows would explain. Is like, what's the game plan if you do catch one?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
I
difficult.
remember, did you ever watch Mountain Monsters?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of got corny there for a while, but they had actually a good idea of making traps, for them. So like, okay, I get that. Okay, cool, but you know,
Yeah. Are you going to be able to trap one of those things? I don't know.
yeah. And some of the traps they made is like, yeah, you're talking about a 7, 8 foot monster that has God knows how much strength.
Mhm.
You probably just rip it apart and go, yeah, okay, that slowed me down for a second. You
Yeah.
know,
And also, do you think now, in the times that we're living in now, that even if someone does catch a Bigfoot standing there, perfect HD, people are going to believe it?
no,
Do you think?
it's going to be like the Giblin film. Okay,
Hmm.
it's going to be scrutinized beyond belief, and you're still going to have those people that's like, nope, that's a person in the suit.
Yeah.
You know, what it's really going to take for everybody to believe, and this is the sad thing to say, is you're going to have to find a body of one that's passed away, film it, film it being dissected, whatever. And I'm not talking, okay, well, here's a clip of it being dissected, then we move to another clip. No, it's got to be like one continuous shot.
Hmm.
That way people are like, oh, they are real,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Because even if the government came out and said they're real, people wouldn't believe it now because no one believes anything the government say.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They're telling us that there's UFOs, and you know, people are like, nah.
Yeah. See, I've got an interesting UFO story. So, probably about 3, 4 years ago, we were on the USS Edson, which is in Bay City. It's a naval museum right now. It's a Vietnam era destroyer. They call it the Gray Ghost of the Vietnamese coast. Okay. In fact, we just did it like a couple weeks ago, but the one about 3 years ago was really interesting. We had an incident where a couple of the girls went going down to go to the restroom on shore, and they got to the back door that we used on the ship, and they opened it up and they heard this like scream growl type thing. So they all come running back thinking I was messing with them. I'm sitting in the galley, which is probably a good 30, 40 feet from that door, maybe a little bit further, down a couple of hallways actually. And they get to me, they're like, okay, so it wasn't you. What did we hear? Well, we're like, okay, well, we'll hold off on that for a little bit, and just let everything calm down, especially you guys because you're racing. So we wait, 20, 30 minutes. And one of the girls is like, well, I really want to go up on deck and see if there's any UFOs. Oh, okay. Let's do that. That way we can let things calm down. So we go up on what they call the observation deck, it had binoculars and everything like that. And a couple of us noticed like this really bright object. It's got to be about that big, right? And it's like, okay, is that a satellite? Because it was moving toward us, but it was not a very fast movement. But then we noticed there's a smoke halo behind it, about that big, you know. And the more the bright object came toward us, that smoke halo followed it. Now this was a clear night. There was no clouds in the sky, so there it couldn't have been clouds. And then it goes overhead of us, and we could see that that cloud halo was still following it. So we snapped a couple of pictures, and it's like, okay. So I got a hold of MUFON and sent them the pictures, and a couple of days later, they got back with me. Like, yep, we got more reports on that one. They actually started tracking it in, I think it was Ohio, which is just south of us, all the way up into Canada. People were taking pictures of it, the same exact bright object with that smoke halo behind it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, man. Any ideas what that was? I know that's difficult.
Oh, yeah, because at first I thought it was a satellite, because it didn't make any erratic moves, wasn't going really fast. So my first thought was jump on some of the government sites that track satellites. You can see which satellites go overhead, especially ISIS or the International Space Station.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was not a satellite that was supposed to be overhead of us at that time. So it's like, okay, I know it wasn't a plane because you didn't see any of the blinking lights or anything like that.
Mhm.
Because it was that low, you could actually tell if there was blinking lights, but you couldn't see exactly what the object was. So yeah, it was definitely, it would be classified as a UFO because you didn't know what exactly it was.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that it's being reported, all across the way to Canada as well. So
Oh yeah.
that's cool, man.
I got when I we took the pictures, I was thinking, yeah, okay. They're going to come back and say, yeah, it's a satellite or it's this or it's that. And they're like, nope, this was tracked from such and such place to such and such place.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, cool.
Wow. What's your thoughts on the UFO phenomena?
Uh, they're real. I mean, honestly, let's get down to brass tacks. How can we as a human race think that we are the only living beings in the whole entire universe? I mean, and it's to me, it's going to get to the point where the government can't hide it no more.
Mhm.
They're going to have to come out and say, yeah, we've been in cahoots with them for years. I mean, honestly, think about it. The advancements we've had in the past 50 years, okay, has been leaps and bounds. We went from let's take from the mid 70s, computers, okay. They were these huge, big, ugly desktop looking things. And now we're carrying one around in our back pocket,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, man.
know, and they're getting smaller. I mean, now they got watches that are just as powerful. Are we saying we're that smart that we could have come up with all that in that short a period of time? You know,
Yeah.
so even space flight, you think about it. Yeah, we had the principles down, but did we have the practicality to go, let's put it all together and say we can do this? No, it had to come from somebody else, you know.
But
So,
if you think that the phones in our pocket, they are more powerful apparently than what the technology that we use to get to the moon, apparently,
oh yeah, definitely.
And that's wild. Like how?
Oh yeah. Well, you think the very first computer, right, um, was only could only save like 5 megabytes of information. That's it. And it took up a whole complete room, and it had to be sub-zero in there for it to work. That's how much heat it put off.
Mhm.
And now we got little itty bitty cell phones that we're getting a terabyte of information saved.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
where'd all that
It's
information come from?
yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, and it seems to be it's gonna because we need our phones now.
Oh yeah,
They're actually a part of our life that you're not gonna get very far without a phone now. Like you
right.
need it for everything. Like
Oh yeah,
you know, and that we're just gonna be integrated more and more with technology. I know I'm not the first person to say this, but talking about putting chips in us and all that. And, I'm the first guy to go, no, I'm not having any chips or anything in
yeah.
me.
Don't feel bad.
But, if it gets to a point where everyone's doing it and it actually becomes it becomes a part of us, which does seem to sort of be happening, which is quite scary.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Are we going to be putting chips in us and are we going to be becoming, you know,
Well,
basically like giant computers?
we're already giant computers. You think about it. If you look at the
Hmm.
human system, but no, I'm there with you. No, no chips here going in underneath my
Hmm.
skin. You know,
No,
no.
no,
You
man.
can't pay me enough.
No.
Um, you know, what a lot of people don't realize is the one that came up with the idea of putting chips in people was actually Gene Roddenberry.
Who is? I'm not sure who that is, man.
He's creator of Star Trek
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
because in one of the books he wrote, one of the first Star Trek books he wrote, he mentioned how people in the Starfleet and all that get paid and they know exactly what job they're supposed to be doing and stuff like this is a little chip embedded in their skin at birth. And that was the first, and if I remember correctly, I may be wrong, but that's I think the first reference to humans being implanted with chips for monetary value, whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah,
In the conspiracy world, they'll say that they have to tell you what's coming.
right. But you think
I
about
don't
it though.
know, man. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Scary, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't like the thought of that.
me either. But I'm not also going to, and I think a lot of us in the paranormal field, we don't bow to normal conventions. We don't follow the standard quo, I guess.
Hmm.
It's, yeah, look what we do for fun. We go into
Yeah,
haunted locations, we go into abandoned buildings looking for things.
we're crazy.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh man, it's fun though. It's scary as well at the same time. Have you had anything ever follow you back while investigating?
No, no, I do a lot of protections. I carry, I don't know if you can catch it on camera, but I wear three crosses.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I've always got my cross next to me.
yep, there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
See, I have
Yeah.
one that's my mom gave me. She got it from a preacher. He makes them, and they're nails wrapped in wire.
Oh wow.
Like the sign of the crucifixion. And then I have a Knights Templar cross. I found out through research that one of our family members was actually a Knights Templar, so I wear that with kind of honor.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I kind of wear that in honor. And I've heard a theory, and I don't know how true it is, and this is just a theory that the more the more protections you have on you, the better off you're going to be. You're not going to be followed and stuff like that. But they say that memorial tattoos are also protection,
Interesting.
like in remembrance of like your mom or your dad or what have you. Well, I have three of those tattoos. One for my son, one for my mom, one for my dad. So people always tell me, well, if you're three crosses and you're three tattoos, you're six times protected. Um, I don't know how true it is, but I like to think it's totally true. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
but I do, I, you know, depending on the variation of my group, we always do something, either a prayer or something like that before, and then we always, as we're leaving, it's like you can't follow us home, you can't, you know, you can't follow certain individuals, you can't come home with us, you can't do anything like this. And I've even expanded to you cannot attach yourself to any of our equipment either. Um, because I've been coming up with this theory that, okay, we tell not to attach to a person, but how many times have we gotten phone calls like, hey, I got this mirror that might have an attachment to it?
Hmm.
So it's like, it got me thinking one day, it's like, well, if that's the case, of mirrors or toy boxes or dolls can have attachments, what says that an entity's not going to say, I like that camera, I'm going to go home with it, and all of a sudden you bring it in your house, you know.
Yeah. And
So
these entities do seem to affect equipment. You
yeah,
see a lot of battery drainage and things like that on these investigations.
well that too. Now you're getting these REM pods that have either dolls wrapped, they're inside dolls or inside teddy bears or something like that. So you're just inviting an entity to say, yeah, I'm going to follow that home because I like that teddy bear.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
now
man.
I've got to the point of saying you can't attach to any of our equipment either.
Have you had any members of your team spiritually attacked or anything like that?
Not so much spiritually attached. We had one member, she actually quit because she thought she had one of them follow her home one night from an investigation. And she's like, I can't deal with it, and it's like, okay, I understand, but here's what you can do to get rid of it, you know. And after she did what we I told her to do, she didn't have any more experiences after that, but she's like, I don't want to take any more chances. And I'm like, I get
Yeah.
it, I understand, on something like that, I really do. If you feel that you had an attachment from one of our investigations, I'm not going to leave you alone and to deal with it. I'm going to help you out as much as I can. If you don't want to continue with the group, I totally understand. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. This stuff is fun. Obviously, it's fun. It's very interesting, and
Mhm.
it is very dangerous as well at the same time because
Oh
you're
yeah,
playing with not playing, but you're dealing with something that's sort of out of our control to an extent.
yeah, because you can't see what's coming.
Hmm.
Honestly,
Yeah.
and
You
even
don't know.
some of the best equipment sometimes can't catch it.
Hmm.
You know, so
What is your a difficult question, but what is your overall opinion on the paranormal? What do you think is going on? I know that's a very loaded question, but what do you think? What do you think is happening when it comes to the paranormal?
Uh, I think it's just entities that either find a happy place that they're happy with, um, and just want to be there because that's their happy spot, you know, or um, and I think people get this confused a lot. My theory is we've talked about guardian angels. Those could be family members that are checking up on you. Okay. Um, and that's about it right there. It's something I think we make it out to be, especially certain locations, to be evil or something like that. Is it though? I mean, okay, think about it this way. Okay, so we go into a house and investigate, right? And a perfect example would be, have you ever watched the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman?
Yes. Oh, I need to. I know what happens, and I need to watch it again. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
great film.
so it's like two different worlds going on at the same time. Okay,
Hmm.
so let's go with that parameter that these entities are living in their world like we are in ours, and all of a sudden they, you know, feel something come into their house. Yeah, they're going to be like, no, you need to get out too. You know, they're going to be angry. They're going to be, I want you out. So that's how I like to think of it. Is it's not demonic. It's not there to hurt you. It's just it wants you out of its location. That way you can feel safe again.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, um, I know there's a couple of shows that every place they go, it's a demon. I'm sorry to
Hmm.
tell them, no, it's not. But yeah, that's my theory on it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So would you say so? You've been doing this for 36 years. Quick
yeah.
maths. Would you say that you've not experienced anything too negative? Anything that's like, I can't do this.
No,
Obviously not because you're still doing it, but
yeah, no, no, no.
nothing negative.
Nothing negative. I've never, knock on wood, I've never been scratched. I've never been punched. I've had my hair pulled, not violently, but like a kid would tug on your hair. Had my clothes tugged. I've had hands on my shoulder. I've had things whisper in my ear, but all of it was very kind of gentle and kind, and like I'm here. Can you see me? Type thing.
Hmm.
Um, like we did the Michigan Theater here in Jackson, and one time I was leaning over the balcony because I had a REM pod on the stage. And I wanted to see what was going on down on the stage, and I felt this hand on my shoulder. At first, I thought it was okay. It's one of my investigators. So I look around, and they're at least 10 feet away from me. Right? I'm like, okay, what in the world? Now, mind you, I'm like leaning over the balcony, which is a good 20 feet up, and all of a sudden in my ear, I hear this whisper go, "Please sit back." Well, as soon as I do, I sit back, like, okay, the hand goes off my shoulder.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, I get it. You're trying to, protect me from if I fall over. Okay, cool. I can deal with that.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Oh yeah, but there again is another personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. And you can actually feel the hands like
Oh yeah.
as just anyone's touching you. That's amazing, man.
Yeah, and like I said, it wasn't menacing. Just enough pressure to, you could feel a handprint on your
Hmm.
shoulder. No squeezing, no nothing.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Brother, you've had some cool experiences. I know we're coming to the end of our time, but I've got to ask you, because you said cryptids was a big part of what got you into this sort of stuff. Have you had any experiences with cryptids?
Yeah, one of the more popular cryptids in our area is Dogman.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was camping with a bunch of guys up near Muskegon, just north of Muskegon, and we were all out, and we had set up our camps and stuff like this, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden we hear this like weird howl scream, I guess if you want to call it that. As soon as I heard it, I kind of like, oh, that's got to be Dogman, just by the sound of the scream, the howl, right? And the other guys are like, what the hell was that? I'm like, I don't know, but we should go find it, you know. Okay, so we all take off, and I'm like, okay, it had to be a good maybe 5 miles from camp. That's how far it sounded. It was, and so I was like, okay, let's get going. We go out about an hour, right? All of a sudden we hear the same scream howl a lot closer. We're like, well, let's go back to camp, because now it's getting closer. We don't, yeah, we had guns on us and stuff like this. We were actually out hunting, for deer. And we were like, let's just go back to camp, just to be safe, right? So we get back to camp, we got the fire going and stuff like this. And it was about an hour after we got back, we were still talking about it. All of a sudden we hear it, and it sounds like it's like less than a mile away. The other guys are like, okay, we need to leave. And I'm like, no, 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 we don't need to leave. We want to stay here. They're like, well, then if we stay here, people have got to stay up to keep the fire going. Ah, cool idea. So yeah, we took turns, going through the night, keeping the fire burning. Didn't hear anything else the rest of the night, you know. So I'm like, let's go looking. Now that it's daylight, we can go out and look. So we go out looking, and we actually found a good footprint. We don't know if it could have been a wolf. Now, I'm not saying it was a dog man, but the print had to be about that big, from back pad to front pad.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So for the people listening, that is how big would you say that is? That's
Well, that's
pretty
got to be
big,
at
man.
least 12 to 13 inches in length.
That's a big wolf if it's a wolf, man.
Oh yeah, they get big here. That they do, but I don't know about that big yet. Um, so is it Dogman? I have no idea, because there is still that possibility of those wolves getting that big here.
Yeah.
But when you hear that that howl scream, yeah, you I'll say I'm 80% sure it was Dogman, but there's still that 20% that says it could have been just a regular wolf.
Is that like any sound you've heard before?
No, no, and I've been in the woods quite a few times. I know what a coyote sounds like. I know what a wolf sounds like. I know what a distressed deer, you know, all of them sound like. This was nothing. It actually sounded like a howl of a wolf, the scream of an old lady type combined together. So
Wow.
it's, yeah.
So have you heard anything online that's close to it or
No, no.
interesting?
Yeah, and I've tried for years to see if I could hear it. Even the reported actual real Dogman audios doesn't match up. So it's like, was it wounded? I don't know. Was it mad? Don't know. So
Interesting, man. And would you say that the print that you found it was like a wolf-shaped print, but just
oh yeah,
bigger?
oh yeah, yep,
That's
yeah,
cool.
oh yeah, definitely.
So how far are you from Bray Road? Is it Bray Road?
Oh yeah, Braywood Road.
Bray.
Oh, probably a good 7, 8 hours trip, maybe
Okay.
longer. Yeah.
I know these things are reported everywhere in the US and around the world.
Oh yeah.
So, but man, cool experience. What
Oh
do you
yeah.
think these creatures are? Do you think they're Bigfoot, Dogman are
Oh,
part of the same thing, or do you think they're living flesh and blood creatures? What's your
I think they
thoughts?
are. I think they are living. They are living creatures. Okay. Think of it this way: in the state of Washington alone, where 99% of the sightings of Bigfoot happen. Okay. The forest that you're talking about that these creatures live in, they've only discovered about 10% of it. So now you got 90% that's never been explored. What else is living there? You know,
Mhm.
I mean, shoot, the Amazon rainforest, they're still finding new species of stuff. Who says that Bigfoot couldn't exist in that environment?
Yeah, man.
I mean,
Well, it took us a long time to find gorillas, pandas,
oh
these
yeah.
animals that we see in the zoo now.
Yep.
But yeah, man,
See, and I point
interesting.
out too is we think a lot of things are extinct, and they may not be. Was it in the 60s they brought up what they call a coelacanth, which
Hmm.
they thought, oh, that was extinct for 2 million years, but they bring one that was alive in 1960.
Yeah.
So Yeah, what we think is extinct may not be. I mean, they're even talking now that the Tasmanian tiger might not be extinct anymore, you know. And these are actual videotaped, we've got pictures of what an actual Tasmanian tiger looked like from what, the early 1700s,
Mhm.
so, yeah, people aren't
Yeah,
going
man.
to diagnose those.
I think there's a lot of stuff out there in our ocean, in our forests that definitely undiscovered, 100%.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love it, man. I'd love to experience hearing something like that.
Oh yeah,
And
I want to
and
hear it again.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool experience, brother.
Oh yeah.
Rusty, I've loved talking to you tonight, man. Is there anything
Thank you.
else that you can share? I mean, I'm glad I asked about the cryptid.
Yeah. Not off the top of my head. I mean, if they want to, they can go to my Facebook page, and there's a lot of videos and pictures from there. So,
Mhm.
and if they want more stories, they can definitely message me, and I'll tell them all our stories.
Awesome, man. Well, you're welcome back on Let's Get Freaky anytime. We
Oh
can talk. We can talk more. I've loved talking to you, man. Thank you so
yeah.
much for your time tonight.
Oh, no
Can
problem. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find us on YouTube and Facebook under Central Michigan Paranormal Investigations. You can find us on TikTok under CMPI.
Awesome, awesome, man. I'll share the links in the show description. Keep up the great work, man.
Well,
Keep
thank
doing
you.
what you're doing.
Oh
One
yeah.
of the oldest paranormal teams going, if not the oldest.
Maybe
We'll
I know
say
it's
you're
just the
the
state of
oldest.
Michigan. Yeah.
But it's awesome stuff, bro. I love talking to you tonight. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the episode, share it where you can. That is a great way to support us. And we'll be back very soon for more freaky conversations. In the meantime, stay safe and keep it freaky. Bye for now. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you.